Hi children, I am going to start a new lesson and the title of the lesson is Human Rights and Fundamental Rights. And in this chapter we are going to learn what are human rights and what are fundamental rights and how they are protected by the courts. Now to start with, let us see what are rights first. Rights are reasonable claims, and if people claim something reasonably or genuinely that they want it, it is called as a right. If people claim something reasonably and genuinely, it is called as a right. And if we want to live happily, we should enjoy our rights. To live happily or comfortably, we should enjoy our rights. Then only we can live happily. And when we have the right to enjoy our rights, at the same time, it is our responsibility to allow others also to enjoy their rights. And it is our responsibility to protect and respect the rights of other people also. Because we are enjoying our rights, we have to protect and respect the rights of other people also. And we have already seen some instances in history where all the people were not equally treated. For several years, the blacks from Africa, they were traded as slaves and they were transported to American countries to work in the agricultural fields and mines. And women were not given the right to vote equally along with men. And even right to property also was not given to women. But today, all these are considered as violation of human rights. Now, these rights play a significant role in democracy. Democracy allows people to express their opinion and make choices also. We also learned that in democracy the people elect their representatives in elections by using their right to vote, and these elected representatives, they run the government on behalf of the people. So democracy provides the choice of being represented by the people, and this choice is called as vote. Democracy also safeguards the interests of not only the majority but the minorities also. Minorities means people who are less in number in the population. Not only those who are in majority in the population, but also the minorities are protected in a democracy. And according to the Indian Constitution, the rights of all the people, irrespective of their caste, creed, religion or gender, they are protected. They are protected by the judiciary, by the courts of law. And there are certain rights which are needed for the all-round development of the individuals. And they are so fundamental that these rights are guaranteed by the Constitution. They are basic rights and they are needed by each and every citizen for their all-round development. So, they are guaranteed by the Constitution itself and they are protected by the judiciary. And these rights are known as fundamental rights. And these rights are so important that they are also mentioned by many of the democratic countries in the world. Not only in India, many of the other democratic countries in the world, they have provided these rights to their citizens. And these rights are so important that even the UNO, United Nations organizations, codified all these rights into a document, and that document is called as Universal Declaration of Human Rights, UDHR. And this document, UDHR, it has been signed by all the member countries including India. All the member countries including India, they have signed this document UDHR, and they have implied that they will uphold these basic human rights and they will provide all these human rights to the citizens in their countries. Now let us see Indian Constitution and the fundamental rights which are guaranteed by the Indian Constitution. Fundamental rights, as we discussed now, these are basic rights and these are mentioned or laid down in Part 3 of the Constitution of India. Fundamental rights are laid down in Part 3 of the Indian Constitution, and these rights, they give protection to the people from oppressive governments. If the governments are oppressive, people get protection by using these fundamental rights against these oppressive governments. And it is the duty of the government to uphold these rights and to protect these rights also. And they are so important that if these rights are violated by the government, suppose the government denies to grant these rights, any of the rights to any of the citizens, any person has a right to approach the High Court or the Supreme Court directly. Without going to lower courts, we can directly go to the High Court or the Supreme Court and we can challenge it in the court. That means these fundamental rights can be challenged in the courts. That is to say, they are justiciable. And writ is another authority which is given to the courts. It is a special authority given to only the High Courts and the Supreme Courts. Suppose the government is denying a particular fundamental right to a citizen. That citizen can approach the court. Just now we discussed about it. And the court can give directions to the government to protect and enforce that constitutional right. That is called as writ. The directions given by the court to the government to protect the constitutional rights and to implement these constitutional rights, that is called as writ. Writ is an authority given to the High Court and the Supreme Court to issue directions to the government to protect and enforce any constitutional right. It is an inherent power given to the High Court and Supreme Court. And the court can also suo motu take action against the violation of, if there is any violation of fundamental rights, the courts can take suo motu action. That means they need not wait for a complaint to be lodged. Only if they receive a complaint, actually they take action. But here, in respect of violation of fundamental rights, the courts can take suo motu action. On their own initiative, they can take action. Now, right to equality. This right to equality has been guaranteed by the Indian Constitution through Article number 14, and it includes the following rights. Let us see what are they. Equal protection of law. That means the government cannot deny to any person equality before law. All the people must be treated equally before law. They must be given equal protection of the laws. No one should be denied on the grounds of caste, creed, religion or language or their status or any other background. And this is called as rule of law. Same laws apply to all the people and same laws are followed by all the people. And this right to equality guarantees that all the citizens must be equally protected by the judiciary or by the laws of the country, whether he or she is an ordinary citizen or a minister or a president or the government official or a small farmer. From a small farmer to the president, all are equal before law. And this is called as rule of law. And no one can demand preferential treatment. That means the government cannot show any discrimination in giving a preferential treatment to any citizen. All must be given equal treatment on the basis of caste, creed, color or sex or gender or religion. The government cannot show any discrimination. And even the Prime Minister of the country, if he is accused of a crime, if he commits any crime, he will be tried in the court just like an ordinary person. He has to attend the court and he will be tried by the court. And in the same way, if any government official is found guilty, he will be tried in the court just like any other person. So no one can claim any special treatment because of his or her class or economic status or caste or religion. And as you know, in the modern state, the executive organ of the government has been given vast powers. There are three organs of the government: legislature, executive and judiciary. And the executive organ of the government, it implements all the laws and rules and regulations of the government. So it has been given vast powers. And this equality clause which has been added to this right, it prevents the misuse of these vast powers by the executive. Sometimes it may be possible that the executive organ of the government misuses these vast powers given to it in matters of enforcing the laws or in rules and regulations of the country. But because all are to be treated equally according to this right, the executive organ cannot show any discrimination. That means the power cannot be misused or exercised by the executive in a discriminatory manner. And the second one is social equality. Social equality means all the people irrespective of their religion, caste, race, sex, and place of birth, they must be treated equally in the society. They are all equal. And on the basis of any of these grounds, they cannot be discriminated and they cannot be denied access to any shop or restaurant or to use any public wells or tanks. They cannot be denied permission because all are equal. And in the interest of the general public, the significance of this article is that it is a guarantee against any form of discrimination shown by the government. This article is a guarantee against any form of discrimination by the state on the basis of any grounds. If any discrimination is shown, this article is a guarantee against such form of discrimination. And there are two exceptions for this, for the application of this right. Now let us see what are those two exceptions. The first, it permits the state to make special provisions for the benefits of women and children. We can see that many laws were made by the government for the benefits of women and children. Women Protection Acts, we are going to learn in our next chapter. Dowry Prohibition Act, like in Immoral Trafficking Act, like these, all these acts were made for the benefits of the women. And some laws were made for the benefits of children also. So, the government can make special provisions for the benefit of women and children because they were being exploited from many years. They are not equally treated along with men. So, the government can make some special provisions for the benefit of women and children. And the second exception is the state can also make some special provisions for the upliftment of some of the backward classes like scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. And that is why SCs and STs, they are given reservations in employment and education also. And the special exception given to the women and the children is only in the interest of their communities. That is, women and children. To protect these communities only, these special provisions are made in the Constitution for the benefits of women and children. And that is why, in an attempt to uphold this right to equality, laws governing civil matters like property, laws have been amended to include women also as partners in joint family property. Previously, the women were not given the right to property also. But now they are included as partners in joint family property. This means the Constitution allows discrimination in reverse. On one hand, on one side, the government says, the Constitution says that the government should not show any discrimination. But on the other hand, the Constitution allows discrimination in reverse by reserving some seats in educational institutions and also reserving some posts or employment or jobs in public sector. The Constitution is allowing discrimination in reverse. Certain number of seats are reserved for OBC, SC, ST in medical colleges. All these are examples for exceptions. Now, equality of opportunity. The Constitution guarantees equal opportunities to all the people, to all the citizens in the country. No one should be discriminated on the grounds of religion, caste, creed, or place of birth. No one should be discriminated in employment or in education. And for this right also, there are some exceptions. These exceptions are for the upliftment of the backward castes. Some provisions, special provisions are made by the government. For the upliftment of the weaker sections of the society like SCs, STs, some special laws are made, some special provisions are made in the Constitution. And abolition of untouchability. Abolition of untouchability means it is a crime, and it has been abolished by Article number 17 of the Indian Constitution. It is a crime. Untouchability or its practice in any form, it is a crime now. And further, if anyone practices this untouchability, it is an offense. Anyone doing such crime, he is or she is punishable by law, and he can be imprisoned. And also the Protection of Civil Rights Act, which is made by the Indian government, it provides, that means it penalizes the people who are showing any sorts of untouchability. That means those who are putting untouchability in practice in any form. That means if they are not allowing some people to enter into the places of worship, or they are not allowing some lower caste people to take water from tanks and wells, it is a crime, and such people are punishable by law. Abolition of title. During the British period, the British government used to give titles like Rao Bahadurs and Khan Bahadurs to many of the kings. And these titles were now abolished. They are now abolished to bring equality among the people. Why? Because these titles like Rao Bahadurs and Khan Bahadurs, they created an impression among the kings that they are very superior. They are very rich class of people. That means it gave birth to a new class called aristocratic class in the society. Those people who got these titles from the British government, they felt that they are very high class people. And it gave rise to an aristocratic class in the society. So these titles were abolished. But the awards like Bharat Ratna, Paramveer Chakra or Padma Vibhushan, which are being awarded by our government of India, they cannot be considered as titles because they do not come within the constitutional prohibition. They are awards given by the government, so they are awards only. They cannot be considered as titles given by the government. So they are not prohibited. And next one is right to freedom. Right to freedom is provided by Article number 19 of the Constitution. And this article provides 6 types of freedoms to the citizens of India. And those 6 types of freedoms are freedom of speech and expression, freedom to assemble peacefully without arms, and freedom to form associations or unions, and freedom to move freely within the country, freedom to reside and settle in any part of the country, and freedom to practice any profession or to carry on any occupation, trade or business. These are the 6 freedoms granted by Article number 19. Now first let us see freedom of speech and expression. This enables individuals to participate in public activities. If they have the freedom of speech and expression, they can participate freely in the public affairs and public activities. Suppose people go to attend a public meeting. If they have freedom of speech and expression, they can also share their views through their speech. They can give a speech, they can express their thoughts, they can share their thoughts with others, and they can do this by publishing their articles in the magazines also. But however, this right is a restrictive right. That means the government can impose restrictions to a certain level. That means to some extent restrictions can be imposed on this right by the government in the interest of the public order, to maintain public order and for the security of the state and for the public good. This right can be restricted to some extent by the government. And that is why movies which are made, all the movies, they are subjected to review by the censor board. And after reviewing, the censor board cuts some of the indecent scenes also, which are not good for the public. Now, freedom to assemble peacefully without arms. All the people in India, they have the freedom to assemble peacefully in one place to share their views, to discuss different things or different issues, their problems or business affairs, to exchange their ideas. They can assemble at one place, but without any weapons in their hand. They should assemble peacefully without arms. And however, before taking out these rallies or demonstrations or conducting such meetings, they have to take prior permission from the administration. And then they can conduct peacefully these meetings without any weapons. And freedom to form associations or unions. All the people in India, they have freedom to form any associations, any types of associations or unions. Like cultural groups, they can form into cultural groups, business associations, trade unions, bank unions, workers unions, labor unions. And many of these unions, they fight on behalf of the workers with the owners to get their demands fulfilled. That means these unions protect the rights of the workers. And freedom to move freely. Freedom to move freely, it is also one of the freedoms granted according to the Article 19. And we can move throughout the country without any restrictions. But this freedom is also restrictive freedom, because the government can impose some restrictions on this freedom also to some extent in the interest of the general public. Now let us see why. Suppose there is some area where an epidemic is spreading very fast, and that area happens to be a tourist place, and people are coming, they are pouring in to visit that place because it is a tourist place, they are coming in. At that time and in that situation, the government can impose some restrictions that free movement in that area is restricted from this period to this period, and after that mentioned period, free movement will be again allowed. That means to save the people from the spread of these epidemics, the government can, that means in the interest of the general public, the government can impose some restrictions on this freedom. And the next one is freedom to reside and settle in any part of the territory. People in India, they can reside anywhere in the country, they can settle in any part of the country. But this freedom is also subjected to reasonable restrictions by the government. Why? Because there are some areas which are occupied by the scheduled tribes. These are tribal people, and they mostly they live in and around the forest areas. And if some outsiders come from outside and they want to occupy that place, they want to settle there, and they ask the tribal people to vacate that place, it is a crime because they are enjoying the forest wealth and they are living there since times immemorial. Since long past they have been living in those areas, so they cannot be asked to evacuate that place. It is a crime. So in certain cases also, the government can impose some reasonable restrictions on this freedom also. That means except these areas, people can settle in any place like that. Now the last one is freedom to practice any profession or to carry on any occupation, trade or business as a source of livelihood. People in India, all the individuals, they are free to practice any profession as a source of livelihood. They can take up any profession, they can be lecturers, they can be doctors, engineers or anything. Or they can provide their personal services also. They can carry out trade, they can carry out business. As a source of livelihood, they can take up any occupation, any trade, any job, any business. And also, on this freedom also, the government can impose some reasonable restrictions. Now let us see what are those. There is no right to carry on a business which is dangerous or immoral. People are not supposed to carry out any business or any occupation which is dangerous or immoral. I am giving you some example. Suppose ganja is being transported from one place to another place and trade is being carried out in ganja. That is illegal, immoral, and it is not allowed by the government. It is dangerous also. So, restrictions can be imposed on such trades or such practices by the government. So, this freedom is also can be restricted by the government by imposing reasonable restrictions. In the interest of the general public only, the government can impose some reasonable restrictions on this freedom also. And unless and otherwise, people are free to carry out any trade or any business as a source of livelihood for themselves. Suppose some people, they want to take up opium trade. You might have heard of opium trade. Between England and China, it was carried out. Opium is nallamandu, drugs. And that is also illegal and immoral. So such trades cannot be allowed by the government. Even though we want to take it up as a source of livelihood or as a means of trade or business, it is not allowed by the government. So government can impose some restrictions on this freedom also. And all these 6 freedoms which we discussed now, they are temporarily suspended during the time of emergency. Whenever a state of emergency is imposed by the president in a state or in the whole country, during that period of state of emergency, these 6 freedoms are temporarily suspended. Not only these 6 freedoms, the fundamental rights are suspended during the time of emergency. And these are revived again after the period of emergency is over. However, the right to life and personal liberty cannot be suspended because we have the right to live even during the state of emergency. We cannot die. This is the right to life. So we have the right to live and personal liberty. So this right to life cannot be suspended even during the state of emergency. Now I am concluding it here and we will continue in the next part of the lesson.